Hi everyone, welcome. I'm down here in my wormery, and the system I want to check in on today is down here in the lower right corner. It's the bin with the mixed worm population in it. Like most of my systems have one or another type of worm living in it, but here there's like a deliberate assortment of 3 different types of worms living in there. Those abbreviations you see, those stand for RW Red Wiggler, ENC European Nightcrawler, and the Indian Blue Worm. I don't even know in what sort of proportions they're represented in this community, but if you see different types of worms when we're checking in here, you'll know why. I've also got an aim today to replace that plastic bag that's covering things. Right beneath the paper bag is a plastic bag. I'd like to try to get things a little bit more dry in the system. I think drying out is one of the strategies that can be used to try to reduce the numbers of springtails, and springtails is what I've been battling with in that system for some time now. We tried diatomaceous earth for a while. We've been most recently applying neem cake. We've got cold pressed neem oil as well. And I guess to replace the plastic covering, I've got a nice big sheet of paper. All right. Oh yeah, my worm chow will probably come into play too, as well as the coffee we're feeding them. Coffee and worm chow's pretty much been the only food they've been getting since the neem applications began. All right, we're going to get that system up here on the bench. I'm going to slip on that glove and we're going to get to work. So this colorful piece of paper will remain, but this plastic is going to go bye-bye. So we're going to make sure we don't have any hitchhikers hanging out on it. Well, this is always like the moment of truth too, is popping off the top and seeing what sort of springtail infiltration we're still dealing with, and you can see they're pretty much everywhere. I don't think I see any worms, but if I leave that plastic out there like that and the worms on it start moving a little bit, their little trails and stuff might reveal their locations if there's any on there. So we've been feeding over on this edge, and when we originally moved the worms into this container, they lived in a smaller container earlier. We had dumped all the material into this side, pushed it over, so this side has always been treated as the side to receive new bedding and food, whereas this end has gotten nothing because it's been left pretty much in the state that it was in when it was poured over from the smaller container. Yeah, lots of moisture in here. I think it's going to help a lot to exclude the plastic coverings here and let the thing air out. Oops, already dropping stuff. I pushed stuff up to the very edge. When we most recently checked in here, I was kind of nudging in a way to make more room over on that side, but I made myself way more room than I think that I needed. So I don't think it's so necessary to maintain this high stacked pile over on this edge. I think we could help level things off a little bit so we're not so close to the rim. The only food we're giving them recently doesn't take up a lot of space. It's coffee, and then just to make the coffee a little bit less boring, I'll usually just dose it with a little bit of my worm chow, and then the main focal point of the feedings has been the neem. And I'm wondering if at this point, I'm not sure if this neem is even helping any, because I see so many springtails here. It makes me wonder if any of my efforts have paid off here. And it might seem a little bit unusual that, hey, we want to promote drying, but hey, you're spraying in liquid. Well, that's the nature of applying the oil, I guess. The neem cake or the neem seed meal is also going in, but that's going in dry, as is the... Ooh, wow, look at all those springtails. I only put a very small amount into this squirt bottle. This squirt bottle usually gets used just to spray normal water, or the water of mine that's been treated with the BTI mosquito dunks solution. So I only took a little bit out of the main bottle that I keep this cold pressed neem oil in, and put some in here just so that I can apply a little bit as I go. I just figured maybe we would do something along the lines of what we're doing here, which is just to try to scrape the top surface off, revealing some of the material right below, which may or may not have springtails. I guess we've confirmed that we do have springtails still in pretty great numbers. And then over here where the coffee's been getting applied, I don't know. We've got a little bit of bedding in here. It wasn't really my plan to supplement bedding today. I just thought we would kind of stick to the whole getting them fed and trying to see what we could do about springtail reduction if possible. But you know, if drying things off is the one way to really make things improve, then I think that removing the plastic covering is the way to go. I think I've exhausted what I'm going to be able to get done over here as far as that neem seed oil, cold pressed neem seed oil. I mean, I bought a bottle of the stuff that's not cold pressed, and then I started reading or hearing or whatever that stuff doesn't really work. You need to have the cold pressed, otherwise it's useless. I originally started into trying neem in my worm bins when I was attempting to reduce the number of mites that I was observing. And I tried everything that I could think of for so long, and I just don't want to let myself go down that same road here. I really want to get to the solution in this system and then be done with it already. So, down here in the feeding area, I guess we're going to just follow suit with what we've been doing, which is bringing in the coffee and the coffee filter. And we've been kind of substituting the whole idea of marking the feeding zone with taking the feeding zone indicator, which in my wormery is traditionally the coffee filter, and simply including it down in the feeding. Last time we had 2 coffee filters and 2 days worth of coffee, and I see no signs whatsoever of the coffee filter, either of the coffee filters. I mean, we went through here pretty thoroughly. There was also a good bit of the prepared bedding as well, so you know, maybe that's been, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like I noticed these pieces of paper vanishing so quickly in here. Perhaps just because they're up against the newly added food, but the prepared bedding mixed throughout seems like it's lasting. So this is just a sort of a half portion compared to what they've been getting lately. Past few check-ins, it's been 2 days worth of coffee being applied. Today I thought maybe we can just compensate for the reduced amount of coffee with maybe just a little bit more worm chow, maybe a little bit more neem seed meal. Here and there I can smell something a little different in here as I excavate the feeding area, and I wonder if it might just be leftovers of the neem cake or neem seed meal. So I think I've seen it used this way, where people apply it pretty generously as almost like a direct food item, and I think it's also been claimed that the worms really enjoy eating the neem cake. So at least it's not doing the worms any harm while we try to see if we can address the springtail situation. Jeez. They're not bashful. They're all over the place. So I guess we sort of did a sweep in this direction with the neem oil. Now we'll just maybe do a similar sort of backwards sweep, backfilling the feeding area, perhaps leveling things off a little bit better than they had been when we first arrived here, and sprinkling in the neem along the way to see if maybe we can see some improvement. You know, at this point I'm not so worried about trying to isolate my countermeasures to see if they work in a vacuum, if you know what I mean. So I mean, putting the neem on here was sort of the plan, and by applying only neem and not trying out other tactics to try to reduce the springtail numbers, it's, you know, permitting us the opportunity to really see how the neem itself is working alone. But I'm a little tired of trying to, you know, sacrifice having a nice clean bin in the interest of having like an even cleaner, scientifically sound experiment. At this point, I've got no problem combining the neem strategy with, at this point, a drying strategy. So I already feel like we might have added a little bit more neem cake to this system than we had in previous feedings. So maybe we'll just sort of make sure we've applied it to this very far end over here, opposite of where the feedings have been, and at this point it's more realistic to say that the whole system's getting fed. But I think that pretty much Oops. Looks like what I was hoping to try to pull off here today. So I guess it was 11 days since the last check-in. There's been like 10, 12, now 11-day intervals between the check-ins. So maybe it'll be about that much time between now and the next time we return here. And I'll definitely be curious to see what happens. And, you know, I guess by not putting the plastic back on, we're going to allow for some drying. But I don't want to have like a completely dried out top surface. I think that you can get somewhat drier material just by, but not completely dried out, by putting on something like a piece of newspaper. So I thought that the replacement top covering here in the place of the plastic would be this piece of newspaper that pretty much goes edge to edge all the way around. And I guess once it settles down in there, and maybe I can come back and tuck it in a little bit just to make sure there's not any large gaps where the air can come and go. Then I think it might even act as a wick, you know. Maybe it'll wick some of the moisture up and out of the material, allowing it to escape to the air. And I guess we'll also hang on to this colorful paper bag that's been sort of our signature covering for this system. Because I like the colors. It's a cool looking top covering. And we're going to keep our fingers crossed. We'll see how things go. I don't know. I mean, we haven't made a lot of progress with the neem, but maybe it's a patience sort of a thing. Maybe the drying will help. I sure hope it does. At this point, I'm getting a little tired of seeing these little guys in here, all these little insects or whatever. But luckily, they're not harmful to the worms. So if they were, I'd be a little bit more panicky. But since they don't bother worms, it's more of just an eyesore and a nuisance that I'm trying to eliminate here. All right, everyone, I got a few things to take care of here as far as getting things cleaned up and put away, but I'm not going to waste your time with that because that stuff's boring. Before I go, though, really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's really appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.